Hello everyone. I've always been interested in deception and lies and fiddling, not as a somebody involved in it, but as an observer who likes to see through it. I've seen tricksters, magicians, you name it, and always wondered how they'd done things. And once you actually learn how they do it, it's very easy to see through it. Now the trouble is that intelligence is like a knife, it's like any power, it's something which is neutral. So everybody can be intelligent, but they're not all good people. You've got the same little pointy thing of good and bad, the statistic of the worst at one end and the best at the other end, and most people are in the middle. So that applies just as much to intelligent people as stupid ones. So you've got a few psychopaths at one end with a high IQ who understand the weaknesses of all the people at the bottom, and what do? They exploit them. Now things have got as bad as they possibly can, because now it seems that fraud is going on right from the United Nations downwards, and it seems to be operating in every country in the world, certainly in the Western world, because the major clue, you always have to learn to look for the clues, because every fraud is identical. It's only the structure that's different. The actual fraud itself is deceiving people that something's going on which it isn't. That's it. You have a facade, you have a screen, a blank screen, which they project an imaginary film onto, which is the nature of the fraud, which is designed, as in the Bible, to have just enough truth in it to convince people, and things that you can't check yourself without having the internet, which we have now, so you can check yourself. But how many people do? Very few, but they should do. So anyway, you have this screen, and they put this view on it that looks marvellous, and it convinces people either with sticks to make them scared of something, that you have a problem, and you want to create a false problem so that you can punish people for it, even though they've never done anything, like global warming, or a carrot where you offer them lots of money, like a pyramid scheme that they never get. Either way, you lose everything, and they get it, and the illusion was never real. So I mean, if you think about it, people are very stupid because they don't learn from history, and the definition of stupidity is people who make the same mistake, learn it's a mistake and do it again. You can guarantee they're stupid, and the intelligent people are the ones who see beyond the obvious and see underneath the surface. So that's how it works. So I'm showing everybody to be intelligent. I'm teaching you how to be intelligent, because nobody wants to be ripped off. So it goes back all the way to page 1 in the Bible, Genesis. What happened with the serpent? The serpent deceived Eve to eat the apple, and we've been buggered ever since. And then Satan comes along and does the same thing. He makes a truth sandwich. He has a huge sandwich made of bread, and he puts a lie inside it, but it's so covered up by the bread nobody can see it's a lie except the intelligent people. So I want to take this tiny thin level of intelligent people who can see through scams but can't do anything about it because the masses fall for them, and allow everybody, given the little formulas, to see what's going on and not be fooled. And if you're not fooled anymore, you won't be taken in. These scams will disappear. They'll just blow away because they were never there in the first place. So the first thing that they use is authority, because you find with things like global warming, I've been arguing with people about this for years, and I've realised that people will not accept data on global warming from anyone except the people who told them in the first place. So it goes completely on authority. If you're not the person that gives them the information, you can't take it away. They're deaf. They won't listen to you. So the naughty people, the psychopaths who take advantage of this, are pretty well screwing the masses and taking everyone else with them. So you take them away, and the consensus view is also nonsense, because if you look at a pyramid has a very thin top and a very heavy wide bottom. That is your IQ, Mensa, top 2%, very thin, very few people. They are the ones who are usually right, and all the big masses at the bottom know very little and just go along with whatever's happening at the time, or on X Factor. So what you do is that the people at the top exploit this, and they make all this phony nonsense about everybody believes this. Well, you know, lots of people believe lots of things, and they're wrong, because throughout science, the majority of scientific discoveries have been made by people that everyone laughed at, like Galileo, who said the Earth was going around the Sun and not the other way around. So consensus is again a falsehood. It's irrelevant. You either test something or you don't. Science is about observation and experiment, and if you can test something and see it's correct, you don't need a consensus. A consensus is an opinion. An opinion is based on not knowing, because if you know, you don't have an opinion. So a consensus is an opinion shared by enough people, which is just the same as a religion or a cult, but it's not science and it's not correct. So you can be free once you know how these structures work. All you do is, if something looks like it's a bit dodgy, or even if it doesn't, look beneath the surface. Thank goodness now we don't need to go to the library, make phone calls, just go online. Everything's published. Go and look up what the people actually say. So when you get a newspaper article about global warming, for example, because that's the current fashion of the 21st century, that and political correctness, they go hand in hand like a shoe in a pile of dog shit. You know, the two things are pretty much similar, because that's what dog shit does to you. It doesn't matter how much you get on your shoe, it's ruined. And the same with global warming. A little global warming or a lot of global warming, you are broke. It's a hole in your pocket. The only difference is how fast the money leaks out. But if your government believes in global warming, you are going to be broke, I guarantee it. So look out at Obama voters. Obama supporters are going to be very sorry in 4 years. So look at the sort of things that go on in the past. Look at the standard formations of the mass organised fraud, where they work from your leaders and your followers and the people beneath it who are doing it because they're not particularly bothered either way, but they get paid and their lives depend on it, because they're being paid by the people that organise the fraud, so they don't argue with it. And the media couldn't care less. They've got no principles at all. They'll say whatever they're making money about. So the media are neutral. They just take whatever they're told to say to make money for their owners. So don't trust what the media tell you. They're just in it for themselves. The politicians, again, they're not there to help you. Otherwise, why would the common market, as it was, burn food and throw milk and wine away because they want to keep the price up? Anyone that does that is obviously an absolute bastard, and you know, if you're absolute bastards running the whole of Europe who have already proved that they are by throwing away food and making people poor and starving, then why should anything else they do be any different? You know, leopards and spots, go back to the Bible. I'm not religious, but the point is the Bible has so much common sense if you strip away the religion. And then you find most of these things have been said 2,000 years ago. These fundamentalist Christians are so busy talking about Jesus and saving and everything, they don't read the actual common sense bits and chuck them out and look at all the nonsense. So we've got things like pyramid schemes going on, where a pyramid scheme, or carbon credits, which is actually a pyramid scheme, where you have money going in, which is your investment, your stake, but instead of gambling on something and making a profit, or investing in something and making a profit, or making something and making a profit, or you know, going into a shop and you buy stock and you know, if you sell it all you make a profit because you know what your markup is. The pyramid scheme, the money goes in, somebody takes it, they keep some of it and give it to somebody else, and as long as they can keep that money flowing, they will always take a certain percentage, which is the profit, and distribute the rest round in a circle, but they're not actually adding to the total pool of money. That's quantitative easing, is the same thing. So if you have 100 bananas and £100, if they make £200 but you've still got 100 bananas, each banana is now worth £2 because the pound is worth half as much. So the government are creating a pyramid scheme every time they do quantitative easing, because the actual gross domestic product, the total amount in the economy, hasn't changed at all, but they are diluting the currency, causing inflation and using it basically to steal your money. So once you understand all these things, you have to learn to look beneath the surface. Looking beneath the surface and checking underneath, you will not be a sheep, you will be a goat. I don't know why goats are more intelligent than sheep, but if we know what sheep are, so we'll use goats as the alternative. So intelligent but unprincipled people exploit these weaknesses because they know about them. They create the illusions, use the formulas, and they will con most people. And what they do is they use divide and rule, so they get the stupid people to fight the clever people, So they will ridicule, like the BBC will ridicule and block anything that's wrong. So, you know, we've got this latest thing, people voting for UKIP, people supporting UKIP having their foster children taken away. That's the sort of thing the BBC and the Guardian promote. If you don't do as they say, if you don't believe in gay marriage, you are a bigot, you are a paedophile, and they will kill you. They would if they were allowed to, but they will kill you, your reputation, which is almost as bad, because destroying someone's reputation takes a long time to get back, and that is how Goebbels and Stalin, all the others who operated all these methods in the 20th century used it. They ridicule and they block. Don't allow it. Don't allow the blocking and ignore the ridicule. If you know you're right, you see all these things, global warming, I keep going back to it because that's what started this fraud off. And could you actually tell yourself if global warming was happening? If the media, not the politicians, the politicians don't know, the media are the ones that tell you. If they didn't tell you it was happening, could you go out and spot the difference? Would you walk outside and say, my God, it's warmer than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago? Or could you measure it for yourself? Would you go outside every day, and it takes 15 to 20 years for a trend, would you measure your thermometer every day for 15 to 20 years? And then of course the local data is not particularly important. You have to do that for a representative sample around the world, so you'd have to use sensors and pay for satellite time or internet time around the world and collect all the data yourself. Now there's somebody called Nils Axel Morner, who is an oceanographer from Norway, who actually does this because it's his job, and he actually measures the sea level every week himself, paying for a satellite, and he says it is not rising. Now he's got no government, no, you know, mafia connections, so to speak, and he says the sea level's not rising. Who do you trust, the consensus or Nils Axel Morner? I would go for the individual. He's a good example. So it is up to you. You can check these things. So, where are we? It's very simple. You can be free. We vote these people in. Now, it is no coincidence whatsoever that every single Western government, and 90% or so, certainly of the countries I know, I don't know all the countries in the world, but I know my own one and plenty of the others from reading about it, believe in global warming, and they will do the same laws, and not just global warming, but quantitative easing, Keynesian economics, chucking more money, borrowing huge amount. Look at the deficit in Europe, look at the deficit in America, look at the banks, the laws that allow the banks to gamble with the investors' money, gamble with your money that's been put in your current account. They're taking that out and they're putting it on the horses, more or less. I mean, what's the difference betting on whether the stock market goes up and down, or whether gold goes up and down, or something else, and betting on a horse? It's just as random, isn't it? At least the horse has got form and you know what it's done before. Gold can go in any direction at all, so can currencies, and they are wasting your money. Now, not one law has been changed in Britain or in America since the banks went broke. Why is that? Because the banks are running the government. Corporatism is not capitalism, it's not freedom. Corporatism is when companies tell governments what laws to make to benefit them and not the people. That's not capitalism, that's not freedom, that's not libertarianism, that is state fascism. So you can be free if you know what's going on. There's only one country in the whole Western world that doesn't have a global warming friendly government, and that's the Czech Republic. And do you know why? Because the leader remembers what it was like living under Stalinist Russia, and he doesn't want that to happen again in his country. And that's quite right. We don't want to live in the Soviet Union. We got rid of that, and what's happened? We've got the European Union. You've got Obama running America in exactly the same ways, but they're doing it so slowly because the people are slightly freer than they were in Russia and got a bit more money and power, and we've still got a free press, more or less, that it's not actually allowed to happen quickly enough for people to notice. It happens gradually over 40 or 50 years, like the common market became the European Union, and it is now about to become a federal Europe. Why? Because they crashed the euro deliberately so that they could allow the excuse to pool all the debt, and if you have to have economic union, you have to have political union, and bingo, they've got exactly what the Germans didn't manage to do in 2 world wars, and they've done it slowly and gradually. You know, bombs don't work, but lies do work. But you break those lies and the whole thing will go like that, it'll be gone. And if one person pulls that little string, the whole jumper will come undone. So look, there isn't a lot to it. You have an illusion on the surface, there's nothing behind it, it's all organised, everyone works together. The clever people on the nasty side, on the wrong side, deceive the average and the good people who can't work it out for themselves, and then you've got the good people who can see through it, but nobody will listen to them because they haven't got the authority, so they're not qualified to say it. So as none of our great and our good politicians like Barack Obama or Al Gore or Michael Mann or James Hansen are going to say, sorry, we got it wrong, global warming is a crock of shit, then you have to work it out yourself, and don't vote in politicians who believe in anything like that. Look at the gold standard, look at Friedrich Hayek, look at the Austrian School of Economics, look at all the honest, decent, truthful methods that they use to do the markets. You know, before the Great Depression, after the Great Depression, there were different ways of doing things. Look at the ones that actually worked, and you'll see that we have abandoned honesty, we've abandoned truth for corporate greed and for the bankers and for all the crooks and people like Al Gore, who have made billions of pounds out of what was actually a Ponzi scheme. So look up things, look up pyramid schemes, look up Ponzi schemes, look up Bernie Madoff, look up Enron, look up South Sea Bubble, everything like that, church indulgences, you name it, they're all the same things, different clothes, same monster underneath. In fact, that monster is like the monster in your cupboard. You open the cupboard, you turn the light on, you look in the door, there's nothing there, there's no monster. This monster is completely created by man, in this case Michael Mann from NASA, who has created global warming with his little bunch of friends, and is currently taking 2 people to court, and if the court order disclosure of his figures and he has to do it, then he will not be admitting his fraud himself and saying, no, I was wrong. He will be forced to hand it over, and the court will read it, and it will become news, and we will all hear. And the thing is, that will be the thread. If somebody like that comes unstuck and you know that they're a crook, how long did it take Bernie Madoff to be found that he was moving around the same money for years? Probably about 15 years, and purely by chance. Same with Enron, you have these little inquiries, they say nothing's going wrong, they carry on doing it for another 3 or 4 years. Somebody stumbles over a dropped receipt or something that's blown out into the street outside the office, has a look at it, realises the figures don't add up, and they're busted. But how long does it take? Every year these guys are operating, your money is going and going and going. Now there'll be none left. Okay, I think you can just about work out everything to do now, and spread the word, because if you vote these people out, they can't screw you. That's simple. Goodbye till next time.